When I first learned about Sarah from, I think, her parents, she was 16 and a talented volleyball player. At the end of the school year, the high school coach suggested that she begin playing with a traveling volleyball club. They didn't have such things when I was in school, but the level of high school play doesn't get to the place where it can prepare you, apparently, to get a college scholarship. So they needed an intermediate level of play, a higher level than she could find in high school. And her high school coach suggested that she begin playing on such a club so that she'd be ready, so that she could play with better players. And she was enthusiastic about playing with the club. But she also discovered that there were moderate costs involved for travel, because they would go from town to town and compete with other clubs, and other clubs would, of course, travel to them. Better equipment, use of the practice gym and field, because they couldn't use the high school facilities, uniforms, coaching, accommodation on overnight trips, and lots of just little incidental costs. Sarah's mother said that she would be supportive in helping where she could, like she would help with local transportation, taking her to events at the local club's facility, that she would help prepare meals for bus trips and so on, but that Sarah would have to work a full-time summer job to pay for her participation in the club. You have to pay a fee for all those other costs that I talked about. And Sarah promised that she would get a job before the end of the school term. She promised that she would get a job then, so she'd have a job at the beginning of the summer. But after a week of summer, Mom found out that Sarah hadn't applied for employment anywhere. So she'd had a month during school and a week of summer, and she hadn't done anything. After considerable encouragement from Mom and removing Sarah's right to use her phone, Sarah did get a job, but it was part-time. It often had hours that dipped below 20 hours per week. It was certainly not a full-time job, as Mom had specified, because that would be needed in order to earn the sum that they all knew. It was a definite amount. So Mom insisted that Sarah either get another part-time job or instead get a full-time job to replace the part-time job that she had that was just not dependable. The bottom line is she had to have a total number of X dollars by the end of the summer. So pretty clear what the goal is. And the amount was feasible. This wasn't some crazy amount so that she'd have to work 80 hours a week to earn it. If she even worked at minimum wage for 32 hours a week, which most states call full-time, she would make the amount. If she didn't spend it all, saved it, she'd be okay. So then Mom left it to Sarah to come up with the required funds. It was pretty clear, X dollars by X date, Y date. Well, Sarah did not get another part-time job, and the hours and the shifts of the job that she had decreased over time. Whether it was demand, whether it was more employees, doesn't matter. She began to work fewer and fewer hours per week, which would not yield the amount of money that they'd specified would be necessary at the end of the summer. Mom chose not to nag Sarah. Remember, Sarah's 16, she's now 4. She chose not to nag her since she had already explained the terms that would have to be filled before she participated in the volleyball club. X dollars, no discussion. Easy. And no nagging, no pushing. It was actually pleasant for Mom, and pleasant, at least during the summer, for Sarah. And during the summer, Sarah mostly just, lounged around, as well as spending what little money she did have on frivolous purposes. So when it came time for school to start and for Sarah to have the money to participate in the club, Sarah had essentially nothing. Sarah said, "Mom, I just need you to loan me enough that I can begin to play with the club." And Mom brilliantly said, "The agreement was clear from the beginning, from a month before the summer arrived, and the agreement did not involve me giving you a loan. And you agreed to it. We established the agreement together. In fact, it's in writing." "But I really need this," Sarah says, and tears are welling up in her eyes. Mom said, "What you mean is that you want this. It's not a genuine need. It's not like food and water. And it turns out that not only do you not need it, but you don't really want it either." Now, that surprised Sarah to hear. In fact, she went from little alligator tears to being incensed. She was furious. She said, "What do you mean I don't want it? I do want it. How can you say that I don't? I've been waiting for this for a long time. I can really learn to play better and have more fun if I join the club." Mom said, "Words, just words. Let me teach you something. Do this little mind exercise with me. Let's say that there are two women, woman A, woman B. They both declare with great sincerity, with tears running down their cheeks, that what they want to do is swim on their country's Olympic team. Woman A works full-time to pay for pool time. Turns out that for a good pool, you don't just get to go swim when you feel like it. You have to pay for time. A swim coach, and travel to swim meets all around the country. She also trains at least 6 hours a day, stroke after unending stroke. Swimming requires a lot of training in the pool. That's woman A. She did all that. That's a lot of work. Woman B sits on the couch, much like you have been doing all summer, watching movies, playing video games, and using her phone. Now, tell me, even though they both said they wanted to participate in the Olympics, which woman really wants to swim in the Olympics?" Now, Mom was getting a bit of a high telling this story because her daughter's trapped. "Well, but..." And Sarah couldn't finish the sentence because she knew she was trapped. She knew who really wanted to go to the Olympics. And Mom said, "Sarah, I really believe that you are intellectually sincere when you say that you want to play on the club, but you are the second woman that I just described. You're not like her, you're her. You could have worked 40 hours or more per week all summer, and if you had reached the agreed amount, I would have helped you with additional expenses that pop up, which they always do. But I'm not willing to give you money for something that you have thoroughly proven with your behavior. Remember, words are nothing, that you don't really care about. You can protest that you care, but your behavior screams the truth." Now, this was a hard lesson for Sarah to learn, but Mom cared enough about her daughter to realize that playing volleyball was not likely to play a key role in the rest of Sarah's life. Mom recognized that being responsible was a skill that Sarah would use every day of the rest of her life. Mom didn't learn how to teach the hard lessons to Sarah until she was 16, and she admits that's her fault. But she also realized that she couldn't do anything about her past neglect or innocence. She could only start loving and teaching Sarah now. And that's all any of us can do as parents. So many of us are like Sarah's mother, and you'll be able to apply this to so many situations. Sure, we've made lots of mistakes. We taught our children to be irresponsible, selfish, and more, but agonizing over that isn't going to help anybody. All we can do is learn to love and teach them now. And your being here right now is part of that. So, congratulations to you. Your children often will not thank you for teaching these lessons. It's going to be a long time. I've heard children say it, but it's going to be a long time before a child says to you, thanks for teaching me responsibility. In many cases, it's just never going to happen. But these lessons have to be taught, because the alternative, which is to raise children who are selfish and irresponsible, is unthinkable. It's even deadly in many cases. And that's why you're here, to learn how to give them an opportunity for a richly fulfilling life. Good for you.